G'day guys, welcome to Talking Boxing. Lyndon Hosking here again. It is Monday, October 3rd, 2022. And as always, what a big week it's been in boxing. Plenty going on at the moment. All the Aussie stuff, of course, all the world stuff as well. Always plenty going on. So we're going to cover a fair bit tonight. If you haven't been here before or watched the shows live, that is, I'll go through the agenda, but as it says there, it's talking boxing, so we want interaction. So any comments, questions, whatever it might be, put them in the comments section there and they'll come up. And as it says there, let's talk some boxing. So tonight we'll go through the Aussie scene. As I said, Ebony Bridges, Shannon O'Connell's been announced. Another all-female mega fight for Aussies, Shanika Johnson, Susie Ramadan. Big preview of Super Saturday this weekend in Newcastle. We'll also go over all the box rec stuff for Aussie boxing this weekend, as well as a couple of other shows. So we'll go over that. And then on the world scene, we'll talk a little bit about Crawford Spence, a little bit going on there. How can we get through a show without talking about Fury Joshua? So we'll talk about that as well. And a few other bits and pieces going on with the heavyweight division as well. And just whatever is happening elsewhere in the world. So as I said, if you've got something to say or ask a question or whatever you might want to do, make sure you put it in the comments section, because even though I can sit here for as long as it takes and talk, it's really a lot more fun if you guys actually get involved. So we've got our first comment there. Andy, thanks, mate. Hello, fans. Yeah, we're probably the only fan on here at the moment, mate, but we're growing. I must say the return views have been good. The live feed is probably something that people have got to get used to, but we are getting a few that are watching it afterwards. At the end of the day, it is what it is. People want to watch, they want to watch. If they don't want to watch, they don't want to watch. That's their loss. So, but whoever's here, let's talk some boxing, because there's always plenty going on. Hit that like button. I always get told to do this: like, subscribe, share, whatever you got to do. Let's just get it out there, because it's your forum, your platform, and it's really important that, as I said, we have some interaction from you guys. Mitch Cook, good to finally catch a live stream, mate. Can't wait to hear your breakdown and predict a few of the Super Saturday fights. Thanks, Mitch. Great to have you along, mate. I know you have commented a few times. I know you do watch the other show, so great to have you along, mate. Anything you want to ask, let's get it out there, and let's get the show growing. So we can continue to talk about what we all love, and that's the sport of boxing. Now, Mitch, I've got a question for you while you're going there. I want to know whether you're up in Newcastle this week with Jade Mitchell. So I want to hear whether that's you're going to be up there and participating in that. So put a comment or something in there, and if some people have got some questions, they might want to ask them well. So we'll get on to the Super Saturday a little bit later, but let's first get off to the big news of the last week or so. Is Ebony Bridges, Shannon O'Connell. It is on. It is December 10 in Leeds, England. What have we got there? Sorry, mate, to interrupt that there. Remind everyone it's every Monday evening. Yes, every Monday at 7:30. I'm on here. If that doesn't suit, let me know. We might be able to swap the slots around. We have had a lot of people say, look, especially during the footy season, of course, all the footy shows are on. All the other YouTubers seem to have the shows on. A lot of the boxing guys might be Instagram or Facebook or whatever it might be. End of the day, we're trying to create the quality content so that you guys will choose our show instead of their show. So, but it is Monday, 7:30 every week. So, hi, Lyndon, Mitchell, and Chap. Yep. I'm not sure how many of you are in there at the moment, but hey, let's go. So as I said, 7:30 every Monday night. And as we get closer to the end of the year, there is so much happening on the boxing front. I did have a little bit to say about the Zone a couple of weeks ago. They seem to have pulled their finger out a little bit with some of the fights that are coming up as well. So we'll talk about them, the schedule. Really exciting fights coming up. Pretty excited. So I've renewed my subscription, of course, because we've got Jarvis and Liam Paro in a couple of weeks. We will talk about that. It wasn't actually on the schedule, but let's have a chat about it anyway, and what our predictions might be and what we're thinking about it. So we'll just put that down there. So yes, Ebony Bridges, Shannon O'Connell, December 10, Leeds, England. Now there has been a lot of conjecture about this. Two Aussies in fighting in England. I can understand it. I do think I said last week that, look, I can see both sides of it. Obviously, we're all Aussies, we're fight fans, we're boxing fans in general, but we really want to see two Aussies fight in Australia. I have been on record as saying I support Ebony to some extent in that she said that why have it on a Wednesday night in Australia? We can have it in England in front of a massive audience with Matchroom and all the vision over there. The only... oh, sorry, Mitch, we've got a different one there, mate. I have got a different Mitch Cook in mind. He... Sorry, Mitch. Thanks, mate. I did get a call. There is another Mitch Cook that I know. He's part of Jade Mitchell's fitness team. So I apologise, Mitch. I thought you were him. I can't see photos of any profiles and that sort of stuff. So apologies for that. But either way, mate, great having you along. So again, put any comments or questions that you've got in the field. Great to have you along, as I said. All right, so I was all for getting on to the England thing with the girls. I thought it might be good to, like Ebony did have a point about fighting in Australia on a Wednesday night and whatever else she might have said. And about the Matchroom thing, having on in Leeds, massive crowd, massive audience on pay-per-view and all that as well. However, the fight is going to be on at 5 o'clock, maybe 6 o'clock Australian time. Eddie, I don't think that was the card to put it on. If you wanted it on one of your other big cards to help carry the cost or whatever it might be, give the girls a bit more exposure rather than trying to carry their own event, okay, I can understand that. Maybe put it on on one of the American shows if it doesn't matter. I understand that maybe he's got a big audience in England, but to have the fight on two Aussies fighting on live TV, yes, it is going to be on Fox, which is great. I'm sure we'll all set our alarms, but 5 to 6 o'clock in the morning, that's not prime time for I think the major audience. Now I think in England, yes, Ebony has got a pretty big fan base over there. I understand all that. But can she carry her own show? I don't think so. So I think if that's in mind, maybe you put her on a big show, but cater to the main audience that's going to actually be tuning in to watch the fight. Because as I said, I don't think she carries a show by herself, Ebony. Yep, I know she's got all her Instagrammers, whatever you might want to, all the social media and all that sort of stuff. That's great. But can she carry a show herself? I'm not so sure, which is why obviously it's on this show here. It's on the Josh Warrington card. So what do you guys think? Is it good to be in England at 5 o'clock in the morning, or should it be in Australia on a bigger platform? Not a bigger platform, probably bigger interest in the fight, I'm probably thinking. And that's probably the other side of the coin when you think about it. Ebony, as Eddie Hearn said, yep, more eyes on the event in England, but are the eyes that really care about that particular fight going to be on it, or are they going to be back here rubbing the eyes at 5 o'clock in the morning? Because you think the majority, 99% of the fans over there are going to be tuning in. This is the English fans I'm talking about. Are going to be tuning in for the Josh Warrington fight. They'll see the Bridges O'Connell fight as a bit of a bonus on the undercard. That's great, but 99% of them are going to be there to see the main event, like it is with all main events. So I'm just not sure. Maybe there's no right or wrong. If they had to put it over here, there would have been backlash about you're putting in too small an audience. But I don't know, Eddie. I just think maybe you should have thought twice about it and given the Aussie fans something to look at as well and to look forward to. Look, I'll be up. Doesn't matter what time it is. I'm actually going to be lucky. I'm going to be overseas when it's on, so it's going to be about 2 o'clock in the afternoon for me. So I'm pretty happy with that. But 5 a.m. here in Australia is crazy. As Ross says there, 5 a.m. Sunday morning, if you will. It is a crazy time, mate. It really is. And I just don't understand. Well, as I said, I can see both sides of it, but you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. But, as I said, like, even though it's a bigger audience, is it a bigger audience that want to watch the fight that might not just be there for the Warrington fight? So, anyway, what do you guys think? Andy, what do you got there, mate? I prefer here in Australia, but wherever the girls can get the most dollars, understand. Oh, yes, good call, mate. I didn't actually factor that in. It's about the dollars. I do know what both girls are getting paid, but I won't obviously reveal it here because it's it's not my business or anyone else's. It is substantial what both girls are getting paid, so good luck to them. It really is a very, very good pay. I think it would 100% be the biggest payday two Aussie girls have ever gotten, I would think. Not privy, obviously, to all the purses out there, but both girls getting very, very, very well compensated. So that's the aim of the game. I think sometimes And I was probably just doing that then. We get a little bit selfish about what we want. If it paves the way for these girls to have the opportunity and get the paydays that they deserve, then good luck to them. I do know Shannon, as would be expected, being the challenger, is getting the shorter end of the stick with everything. All the terms are on with Ebony, and that's what happened to the champion. So good luck to her. So all good for that one. Who do you guys think wins? I think a lot of the polls out there so far backing Shannon O'Connell. I actually think, and look, if you watch this show regularly, you know that I'm close with Shannon. I used to promote her back in the day, a couple of years ago, before she went to No Limit, and still on very, very good terms with Shannon. I was so rapt that she's got this fight, I will say. But I will say that I don't think it's going to be as one-sided as a lot of people think it will be. I definitely think Shannon wins. But Ebony's probably improved a lot. I think she got a world title fight in one of her fourth fight or whatever it was. Way too early. Totally undeserved, by the way, I will say. No fighter should be fighting for a world title, male or female, after 4 fights. I'm sorry. Should not work that way, no matter who your promoter is and how many Instagram fans you got. Shouldn't work that way. Especially in that instance, if you think back, she actually lost to Shannon Courtney for the vacant title, which was a great fight, by the way. Both of those girls actually leapfrogged Shannon, who was the number one challenger. So I don't know. And look, and that would have purely been because Shannon, she was in a bit of limbo there. She didn't really have a promotional team or a management team at the time. So she probably got pushed aside a little bit, and there wasn't really a lot that she could do about it. But now she's got Glenn Jennings behind her. She's got No Limit behind her. That wouldn't have happened if they were there a couple of years ago or whenever it was when Ebony fought for the vacant title. So do you guys think they should be fighting for a vacant title after 4 fights? I certainly don't, especially for a WBA title. I know there's a couple of other lesser titles out there that some of the men and women fight for that maybe aren't necessarily, bona fide belts, but it's a step up, I suppose. But for a WBA belt, to fight for it after 4 fights, I don't think that was justified. But all that aside, she then got her opportunity. She gave Shannon Courtney a really good fight, by the way. But she then got her opportunity to fight for the IBF title. I can't remember who she fought, so I haven't got it written down there. But look, did the job. I will say the opponent she fought probably wasn't the greatest champion of all time, but she was the longest serving female champion, I think I saw at some stage there. So good luck to her. You can only beat who they put in front of you. And look, a lot of world champions have beaten probably less, if I can say that, lesser light type of champions to get the belt. And that's been the stepping stone to bigger fights, which looks like it's happening to Ebony here. Before we move on there, Shane, thanks for tuning in, mate. Do you know if Matchroom is paying for the out costs like flights and hotels? Do promoters normally pay for this? Yep, he'll pay for everything, mate. I don't know the particulars, but you'll be guaranteed that Shannon, I think she's going to get there a couple of weeks before in an ideal world. It's a long flight to England, so let's hope that's the case. No doubt they'll probably try and get her there the day before the weigh-in, but I don't think they're going to let that happen. So she'll probably get there 2 weeks before the fight. They'll probably give her, I'm assuming they might even give her business class. I'm not sure. She's not the actual main event, so maybe not. But either way, they'll probably give her her fare plus probably another 4, I would think. The per dimes, which is all your food money. So she might, I don't know, picking numbers, she might get $100 a day for food and other expenses. Hotels, all that sort of stuff, sanctioning fees, everything is paid for. She gets a purse. All she's got to do is turn up and fight. So that's the beauty, especially these bigger ones. Even the smaller shows. I've done a lot of smaller shows, mid-range shows. Every single time, Shane, the promoter pays for everything. The only time you might see a fighter or a fighter's team or whatever it might be contribute some money is when they might want an extra title involved. So let's just say there's the main event and the promoter agrees to pay for one title. The team of one of them might say, or both of them might say, look, we want to fight for this title as well. It might be a stepping stone or a ranking they might get in another instance. They might, so the promoter might say, all right, well, that's the case, then you pay. It comes out of your purse, not mine. So that's the little things that can happen. But when it comes to flights, hotels, all that sort of stuff, the food, all the incidentals, doctors' bills, medicals, all that sort of stuff, it's all on the promoter, whether it's a big promoter like Matchroom or a small promoter like I was. So I hope that answers your question there, mate. Andy, what do we got there, mate? I'm going with shotgun, but Bomber won't be no slouch. Ebony not coming to lay down. Yeah, good point, mate. That's what I was just saying. as much as a lot of people have said that Shannon will absolutely slaughter Ebony Bridges, I don't think that's the case. And more importantly, Shannon doesn't think that's the case. Shannon's a professional fighter. She knows that Ebony Bridges, regardless of the bad blood between the two girls, she knows that to win a title at that level, she must be around the mark. So Shannon, look, she wouldn't care whether she was fighting this level or this level. She's going to prepare the same. She's going to go in there 100% prepared. Her fitness, her diet, every little thing that needs to be done, she'll do. And I'm assuming Ebony will do that too. And I know she gets out there with, she flaunts what she's got and the Instagram and that sort of stuff. But I think behind closed doors, you would probably find that she puts all that business aside and gets on with the serious business, which is the task at hand. So I think, Ebony, just winning that title will make her a better fighter, probably a 25% better fighter, just by having that belt strapped around the waist. It just can happen. Sometimes mindset is the biggest thing. It makes you walk taller. You're the A side. You've got the belt. You've got that self-confidence. It just does make you walk a bit taller. And sometimes up here is just important as the physical side. So I think she'll walk in there. So obviously it's her home patch, Leeds. She took that on. She's got her promoter at ringside. She's got probably 90% of the fans there will be for her. She's got all the things in her favour. So that's going to just close the gap a little bit more than what you would probably think. As I said, don't get me wrong. Shannon wins this fight by experience, by fitness. I think that's probably the main thing. And I know a lot of people have said it's the experience factor. Shannon's had 30 fights. He's 23-6-1 with 11 knockouts. Ebony's only had 9 fights, 8-1 with 3 knockouts. But I don't sort of factor in the whole experience thing as being the major factor. I put it down more so with physical hardness and conditioning. One thing I have seen with Ebony in her fights is that even though her skills have improved, her conditioning hasn't really gone along with it, where she's seeing out a 10-round fight, in a high-paced sort of atmosphere. Like the last girl she fought for the world title, look, she's obviously been 10 rounds many times. She was experienced, but she let Ebony dictate the fight, the pace of the fight. So when Ebony wanted to go hard, she started really, really hard and fast. So she probably won those first 3, 4, 5 rounds. Then she started to fade. And what the other girl didn't do is then pick up the pace to take Ebony out of her comfort zone and put the pressure on her. She let Ebony cruise for 2 or 3 rounds to gather herself, and then she come home hard in those last 2 or 3 rounds. So, and good fighters will do that. But Shannon, that's where I think will have the fight won, is that Ebony might go with her for 3 or 4 rounds. I just don't think Ebony's got the conditionings at the moment for those middle rounds where, you need that second win, and then, of course, then you need your third win. Shannon will be 100 miles an hour from the first bell until the final bell. And as I said, that's where I think the fight is won, in the probably 5th to 7th round, or 4th to 7th. Well, probably the first 4 will be okay, but rounds 5, 6, and 7, maybe 8, will be the rounds where I think the level will start to do this. And Ebony will just start to fade. And what will happen is, as Ebony starts to fade, Shannon, with her experience, I suppose that's where you can say experience will come into it, she'll know, and she'll start raising the bar, and she'll keep raising it and raising it and raising it until Ebony, I don't think, can go with her no more. So I wouldn't be surprised if Shannon stops her late, but who knows, maybe it will go to the decision. So that's December 10 in Leeds. So it will be on Fox Sports, so we'll obviously cover that a bit more in the lead up to it. The other big fight that was announced last week, female fight, Shanika Johnson, Susie Ramadan. Now this sort of come out of nowhere. Shanika Johnson, I think Susie Ramadan was supposed to fight Jamie Mitchell. She had visa issues. Shanika Johnson then was into the mix as far as fighting her as well. So when all that fell over, the logical thing was to put them both together. And having 2 Aussie girls fight on the undercard of Kambosos and Haney, how big a deal is that? So October 16th, Rod Laver Arena, the main support to Kambosos and Haney, and I'm just wrapped for both girls. I really am. I've had things to do with both girls. I've promoted both. I started Shanika's career. I think she had her first maybe 9 or 10 fights with me. Susie Ramadan and I promoted for a couple of times, but I know them really well. Both really hard-working girls. Susie's obviously been around a lot longer, but I'm really glad she's got this break. The last probably 3-4 years probably hasn't really gone her way as far as getting opportunities goes. She hasn't really been active either, although I will say. Shanika Johnson been a lot more active, fought really well in that last fight against her Mexican opponent. I think that was on the undercard of Zarafa Hardman, and really had to work hard to get the win. So she's got the IBF belt around the waist. So to have those two girls as the main support, I'm wrapped for both girls. I'm wrapped for the event, and I'm wrapped for Aussie boxing and what it will bring. So that will complement the two Maloney brothers who will be on the undercard as well, and how good will that be as well? I can't wait to be there. I missed the first one, I was overseas, but really looking forward to this one. We didn't get any of the undercard fights in the States except for Jason Maloney, but this time I'm wrapped to go down there. I'll be there with Uncle Ronnie Picken, conditioning coach to the Stars. I think he's working with Jason Waitley at the moment, as well as Jade Mitchell. So shout out to Ronnie if he's watching. And yeah, so I really can't wait for that fight. And as I said, October 16th here in Australia. I think the card kicks off at about 9 o'clock, the first fight. The main event will be 1:40, obviously going back to the States. So yeah, jump on that one. All right, so just before we move on, Shane's got a comment on the Ebony and Shannon fight. Ebony can bang. She comes forward, takes the one, maybe two, then fires off a 1-2-3 combo, then holds or pushes off. Shannon should be able to box her ears off if she doesn't get sucked in. Yeah, I think they'll do the homework, Shane. I think, Shannon started now. She always keeps herself super fit, but today was her first real day one of fight camp. I'm not sure what sort of condition Ebony sort of keeps herself in as far as her weight and all that goes. I know Shannon always probably keeps within 3 or 4 kilos of her fighting weight. I mean, she's been around a long time. She knows the weight cut. So, what are we doing there? I'm a bit out of focus. There we go. But yeah, you're right, mate. I'll just get that comment up again there. So she can bang. Yeah, look, Shane, I'm not so sure she can bang. She looks like she can. She's got that big body, but she hasn't really stopped many quality girls, if any. I know she's probably had a couple there. What is she? 3 knockouts in 8 wins. Yeah, I mean, as I said, she looks like she can bang, but I don't think she looks slow to me. I know she has been a bodybuilder or whatever it has been in the past. She's solid. She looks strong. I'm not so sure she's a big puncher. I just don't think she's got the punches to keep Shannon off. I really don't, to keep her off her. Shannon has been hit with some big bombs on the way. Yes, she has been knocked out before. The girl she fought was an absolute monster, I will say. That was up in Queensland. She has been stopped, I think, by Dana Prazak, but that was at junior lightweight. So that was, what's that, about 5 kilos, 6 kilos heavier than what she currently fights at. She took that fight just to get a shot. So, yeah, look, I don't know, the only way I think she can win is to try and win those first 3, 4, 5 rounds and then, ease off or not ease off, but be prepared to lose those middle rounds and then come home strong. But anyway, we'll see what happens, mate. So back on to Shanika and Susie. So I think we covered that one. So as I said, really looking forward to that one as well, and good luck to both girls. I can't really pick a winner at this stage, but look, I can see both girls winning. I think I'm going to go for Shanika Johnson, just by a little bit of youth and being a bit more active. But look, they both girls know each other really well. They've trained together, sparred together. They know each other extremely well, and I think there'll be no surprises. Susie, obviously, the only reason I'm not picking her is just because she just hasn't been active enough, and she's obviously getting on in years as well. So I'm going to go for the younger fighter, Shanika Johnson, but not with any confidence, and we'll probably preview that probably next week. It'll be the week before. We might get a few other opinions as well. Who do you guys think wins, Shanika Johnson or Susie Ramadan? IBF Super Bantamweight World Title or Junior Featherweight, or whatever you want to call it. Onto the world stuff, guys, before we get on to Super Saturday. Crawford Spence is now looking extremely unlikely. And as always, all the powers that be have absolutely stuffed it. However, I have just learnt today some other circumstances where I can understand that Crawford hasn't signed. This is the hold-up, by the way. Spence is managed or advised by Al Heyman. We all know Al Heyman is the advisor to the Stars, obviously the main one being Floyd Mayweather. So they've Spence, I suppose you could categorise as the A side in the event. Crawford has gone along with it by all accounts. He's actually unrepresented at the moment. He's obviously parted ways with Top Rank. So he's just pretty much said, okay, I'll accept the B side. I'll accept the lesser amount of money. I'll accept all the terms. But what's happened is that Al Heyman / Errol Spence have now said that while Spence will get a purse, a guaranteed purse, and probably a percentages of the pay-per-views and whatever else it might be, Terence Crawford his whole purse will be based on net profit. So not gross profit. Now, we don't know either one. Net is what the whole thing generates. Gross is the actual profit after all the expenses have been taken out. So all the purses and all the other expenses have been taken out. The gross is what's left, and that's what he would normally get a percentage of. What's happened is they said, no, it's not on the gross, it's on the net, so whatever it brings in. So what's happened is Crawford's now saying, okay, well, if I'm going to be my percentage is going to be based on what the fight brings in, I want to have a say or have a view of what the expenses are, because every expense that goes out is affecting what I'm actually going to earn. So that's where the issue is at the moment. Crawford has said, I need complete transparency about what all the expenses are, because at the end of the day, that's what's going to affect my purse. I think I've got that right. Anyway, so yeah, so he wants a little bit more transparency and all that sort of how it all goes. Spencer said no. So his whole purse, he has no idea how it's technically going to work, how he's going to get his percentages, and so he said, I'm not signing until that's the case. And you can't blame him. You can't blame him. So he might walk away 10 million. He might walk away with 1. Who knows? But Al Heyman has said, nope, we are controlling the action. You just fight and you'll pretty much get what you get. So that's where the hold up is. So Crawford, no guaranteed purse. He just gets a percentage of the net revenue. And Spence, he gets everything that both fighters should be getting. And that's guaranteed purse plus percentages. I would have thought 60-40 for Spence, I would have thought. Or even, 65-35. I reckon Crawford would probably take it. So anyway, we'll see what happens there. But either way, it's a shitty situation. And they reckon even if the fight happens, it will now be January or February at the earliest. So I don't know what's going to happen there. So we'll see. Quick one from Andy with the girls. Good luck to both. I've got Sugar Neeks too. Props if Susie proves me wrong. She'll have a go. She's got a very good trainer, Lynn Jecker. He's been around a long time. Lim, I know him really, really well. And he'll get Susie ready. He also knows Shanika really, really well. He did have a bit to do with her early in her career as well. And he will get Susie very, very well prepared. Now, this weekend, Chris Eubank Jr., Connor Ben, October 8th in London. Before I move on there, we've got another comment, Spence and Crawford. Very frustrating, Spence versus Bud. PBC Island, PBC rules. Yep, it does, unfortunately, mate. Look, maybe, again, I'm not privy to all what goes on with these guys, but maybe Crawford will say, okay, well, I will sign as a PBC fighter if I get that, and that. Maybe they don't want him, I don't know. Again, I'm not privy to all that sort of stuff, but that could be an opportunity as well that Crawford says, I will sign up with you for 2-3 fights, whatever it might be, rematch clauses, all that sort of stuff. If we can get a bit more, money, percentages, whatever it might be. We'll move on there. Actually, one more thing there. All-Star Boxing. Who wins, Lyndon Spence or Crawford? I was hoping no one had asked that, to be honest, mate. Look, I'm going to go for Crawford. Not with a lot of confidence. I really like both guys. While I'm talking to you guys, feel free to put your prediction in there. I think Crawford, I think he's a little bit busier than Spence, even though he's going to be the smaller man. I will say he's coming up from was a lightweight, junior welterweight, and now welterweight. I just think, call it just a gut feeling. I just think he works a bit harder. I think he punches pretty well. Crawford, his work rate I'm talking about. Spence has got that beautiful standoff style. I just don't think he's busy enough, and that's where I think Crawford gets the advantage. So I'm going to go for Crawford, but not with a lot of confidence. And when it is finally signed, sealed, delivered, Then we can do a bit more detailed analysis of it and some predictions. But I'm going to go for, as I said, Crawford there. Shane, nice to see you agree there, mate. I've got Crawford. That's 2-0. Again, put your comments in there. There is about a 30-second delay here, guys. So put a comment in. I'll come back to it. Welterweight undisputed would be a great fight. I'm leaning to Bud over Spence, in my honest opinion. But again, props to Spence proves me wrong. Yeah. Look, I don't think I'd be an upset either way, whoever wins. But this is the beauty of it. I go back to Leonard and Hearns, and then there was Curry and McCrory. This is Donald Curry, Milton McCrory. That's probably the only big fight. And obviously Mayweather, Pacquiao was the big welterweight fights of the generations. Leonard Hearns was obviously early 80s. Curry and McCrory was mid to late 80s. And, of course, you had Mayweather, Pacquiao in the mid-2010s. So this is the biggest welterweight fight, I think, since then. So let's just get it on. Enough of this bullshit. I understand business has changed to yesteryear. But, geez, I just long for the days when the best would fight the best. But anyway, that's a bygone era. Bring back HBO, please. I always say about it, but it ain't going to happen. So pick and fight. We'll be watching that one as a fan of the sport. Hopefully they can get it done. Yeah, good call, mate. I'll 100% be the same, even though I've picked Crawford. It's not like I'll be barracking for him. I just want a great fight, which I'm sure we'll get. I don't think there'll be a stoppage either way. Or I really can't see Spence stopping Crawford. Crawford, yeah, I'm not sure he's got the size to chop Crawford down. So I'm thinking Crawford on points. But I'm with you, mate. As a fan of the sport, let's just get the fight done and worry about who wins later, I think. I'm fan of both, 50-50, but I'll lean to Bud on overall skills. Yep, that's a good call too, mate. As I just said, not really fussed about who wins. I just want the fight to happen. It's a little bit different to when Mayweather and Pacquiao fought, I will say. All this bullshit that went along with that. There was definite Manny side and Mayweather sides in this one. I think everyone just wants to see the fight. So let's just hope it happens. So getting back to Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn, October 8th, so this weekend in London. It is on at 5 o'clock in the morning. I get it on the DAZN. I think you can actually get it on Main Event as well. So I'm not sure on DAZN whether it's a pay-per-view. I would doubt it for us Aussies, but I know Main Event are selling it for $60. I think it is, but it is on DAZN. Back to Spence and Crawford. I think Crawford's feet get him around Spence's straight punches, but to be fair, they're both beautiful to watch. Yeah, they are, mate. And I think that's why we're all so keen to see the fight. It's like, when Pacquiao and Mayweather fought, as I said, that was probably the last big welterweight or the biggest welterweight fight. It's just that they're just professors of the sport, and we love them. I know, again, the Mayweather-Pacquiao thing got a little bit more personal. We all had our sides and everything else. But in this instance here, probably except for the real hardcore fans of each, most people just want to see a great fight, and they're just such great fighters that we just want to see them face off and just see who gets the job done. So, but as the months go on, see what's going to happen is Crawford hasn't fought, I think, since October last year. So he's been a year out of the ring already without even having another fight scheduled. So he could be out, by the time this goes on, he could be out 15, 16, 17 months. It's a long time to be out of the ring, especially when you're 35 years of age. Spence, on the other hand, fought earlier this year as well. He fought Ugas, a few months back. So he's probably not the same as Crawford. He's obviously got some years on Crawford as well. So I don't think it's going to really worry him if it drags out a little bit longer. As I said there, yeah. So welterweight Mando's looming. It's now or maybe never, but is aging. Yep. And the other thing is that Crawford's also now engaged with a little bit of war of words with Jamel Charlo. So he's talking about going up to fight him. But on that hand as well, Jamel's obviously scheduled to fight Tim Tszyu at the end of January 28th. So Charlo, best case, wouldn't fight till the end of 2023. That's if he does it all. Could be November, December. He only fights once a year, does Jamel Charlo. So he could be waiting till the start of 2024, and all of a sudden he's been out of the ring for 18 months. Oh, sorry, 18 months. So it's a long, long time. It's even longer, 2.5 years, yeah. So he will now have to be obligated to defend his title, as it says there, with the Mandos. The mandatory defence is coming up. So, yeah, what it does is just a domino effect on all other fights. So let's just hope they can get it done. It's a bit like this Joshua and Fury fiasco going at the moment. We'll get to that in a sec. But, yeah, let's just hope the fight happen. So who do you think wins? Eubank Jr., Conor Benn? I'm going for Conor Benn in a bit of a surprise, even though Eubank's the bigger man, more experienced. I've just got a feeling that Conor Benn's here to make a statement. Obviously, he hasn't had the quality of opposition as Eubank Jr. He has beaten Chris Algieri and the South African guy Chris van der Meer, or whatever his name was. He's beaten him, a couple others there. But so I think I think it's going to be Ripper. And as I said, I think Conor Benn gets the win. I think he might even be able to stop Eubank late, to be honest. I don't think the weight's going to overly affect him too much, but it will affect Eubank Jr. So I'm going to go for an upset. Who do you guys think wins? Back to Bud and Spence, All-Star Boxing. Bud and Spence is stylistically a great fight. Two Americans with that American slick style, both different styles, although very excited to see which styles come out on top. Can't wait. Yeah, mate, I'm with you. Cannot wait. Let's just get the fight done. As I said, let's not worry about who's going to win and why till it actually gets done. And it would be an absolute tragedy if it doesn't happen. And look, the odds are, I think it will happen eventually, but it needs to happen within the next 6 months, or it could happen 2 or 3 years down the track when they're both past the peak. And it might be another Cal Brook, Mir Khan situation, or Mayweather Pacquiao, whatever it might be. Let's hope it's not that, and we get the fight within the next 6 months. All right, so we'll get on to, another one there. Shane, a lot of these top-level guys seem to only fight once a year these days, mate. I hate it, but I can understand the money involved. These top-line guys, they get paid millions and millions and millions of dollars, so why fight more than once? That's why I'm a big fan of Canelo, because he fights regularly. I'm not a fan of the Charlos, who fight once a year. It's got nothing to do with the Tim Tszyu factor, with being Team Tim, of course. But, I just don't understand. Look, twice a year. Even Mayweather fought twice a year, and he was earning $100 million a fight. This once-a-year stuff, I just hope, just seems like each decade or each even year that goes on, it just seems like there's a new trend. And this whole thing now about spreading these fights or delaying these fights, spreading them out, playing all the social media bullshit. Tyson Fury at this stage is probably the biggest culprit, and I love Tyson Fury, but every week it seems to be some other bullshit thing he comes out with to dangle the carrot out in front of people and just get people talking. And then you got the Ryan Garcia, Tank Davis bullshit in the nightclub and all this other crap. Guys, we don't want to hear about that. We want to see you guys fight each other and get on with it and fight each other. I think they cater too much to the casual fans and not enough to the hardcore fans. And there's a lot of hardcore fans out there that are very, very disgruntled at the moment. When I was in Vegas a couple of weeks ago for Canelo and Triple G, I got talking to a lot of fight fans, and they, a lot of them said, it's just boxing's just not the same. These are the Mexicans and obviously the Americans and whoever it might be, but mainly the Mexicans. They're the most hardcore fans you'll ever see. And when you see them getting disgruntled by the sport, there's something wrong. And I blame the promoters, but mainly I blame the fighters. It's all about likes and subscribers and all the views and all this sort of stuff these days, rather than getting there and fight. As I said, I understand that's sort of the way it works these days. And the money involved, but geez, for me, I don't care what people think of Canelo, like him or hate him. It doesn't really matter. He fights regularly. He fights the best, and I prefer that than someone that fights once a year and it talks it up on social media and just doesn't get in there. So anyway, that's just my 2 cents. And he looks Eubank looks a little shelled out. He does look a bit casual, doesn't he? For me, I don't know. He says he's going to win easy. It's really been hard to make. But Conor Benn, as I said, he just looks to me like he's ready to go. He's ready to win. He wants this fight. He wants to. I won't say. I know they've played up the whole Eubank-Benn rivalry from years gone by. I understand all that. It's a selling point. To me, Eubank Jr., I just don't know. The look in his eyes, he just looks a bit casual to me. Ben looks ready to go, and that's probably why I'm picking him to fight. Still on Eubank and Benn, All-Star Boxing again. Eubank has it all to lose. His fight is a big, big fight with family history that runs deep. Certainly does. A lot of pressure on the two boys when you think about the childhoods and knowing how their fathers were. I think it's great. I think it's awesome that it's a new generation is taking on that rivalry and the spite. And if you're a little bit young to the sport, go back and watch the Ben and Eubank Senior fights. They were great fights, great rivalry. We've covered it in the classic fight, so jump on our YouTube channel and look it up. We covered that a couple of months ago about the rivalry they had for the two fights. Eubank Jr. won the first one and the second one was a draw. So, the rivalry is still there, but I love it, and I think that's going to be carried in. I hope there's actually a little bit of argy-bargy between the dads. Let's hope so. They still have a big presence over their sons, so I'm really looking forward to it. Not looking forward to getting up that early, but looking forward to the fights. Getting back to my point about fighters and promoters, so tired of all the clout chasing that happens, frustrating. Yeah, as I said, mate, they forget the rusted on hardcore fans, and they're slowly but surely just dropping away one after the other, and the UFC would be licking their lips saying, how good is this? Boxing is just giving us a free hit. You know, these guys fight once a year. They're too worried about how they look on social media and all this bullshit that goes on with all the trash talking. Our guys, we have our shows whatever times per year, and our guys fight. Now, it's one thing, I'm not a UFC fan, I will say. I admire the fighters. Really admire what they do and what they put their bodies through and everything else. I'm just not a fan of the style, you know, but that's just me. But I respect the fighters, and I really admire the organisation that just says to these guys, you're fighting him, and after that one, if you both win, you guys are going to fight the winner of him, and let's go. And there's no argy-bargy. I know it's different to the boxing setup. They're all under the one umbrella with UFC. Boxing's got all these sanctioning bodies and promoters and all that involved. I would love to have a UFC model. It ain't never going to happen, don't get me wrong. But how good would it be to have, I don't know, the World Boxing, you know, organisation, what's WBO, whatever it might be. You guys would get what I'm saying. You know, where it's one sanctioning body like the UFC, but as I said, it's never going to happen. I know PBC tried to sort of start it by having their own umbrella and their own belt and bringing all these fighters and try to sign them, but there's only so much money to go around, and the top ranks and Golden Boys and all those types of guys, Matchrooms now, aren't going to let the guys go without a fight, so it was probably never going to happen, but I know that's what they sort of tried to do, but it ain't happening, So anyway, let's hope it changes. As I said, it just seems to be getting worse year on year. And, it's just a shame. Shane, sanctioning bodies could do more to put time limits on rankings and mandatories. 100%. Good call, mate. Well, they sort of do now. They say you got to have, you know, a set date this time. But, mate, then you get a Canelo or Tyson Fury or whoever it might be, a Mayweather especially. They're just a different set of rules. And the sanctioning bodies need those guys because they're getting paid hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars in sanctioning fees. So there's a different rule to them. And that's why the WBC brought in the franchise champion. So they can say they're Canelo or Mayweather or Tyson Fury, you're our franchise champion. And you can just fight who and when you want. Have all the secondary belt underneath where these are in play. But the main franchise champions can pretty much do what they want. That's what it is. It's a license to be pretty much a free agent and have the say on everything, and I hate it. But I'm with you. These sanctioning bodies need to, in a perfect world, get someone there with some balls who isn't corrupted or favouring guys. Again, it ain't going to happen. But to go in there and run it like an NRL or an AFL, or I'm talking in Australia, by the way, of course. Or even in America, NBA and that, where there's a sanctioning body, they get people aboard, everything that looks after the sanctioning body, and they govern the body with no favoritism, none of this other crap. They have rules in place for every single part of the sport, part of the body, and if you haven't signed a fight by this stage, you're stripped. If you haven't done a mandatory by this stage, you're stripped. If you're a unified champion, then there's protocols in that as far as with the other organisations about, you're fighting this voluntary this mandatory for say it might be the IBF, and you're fighting this mandatory for the WBC. Just have something in place that in all different facets of what might happen, that there's a thing in place that has it covered. As I said, voluntary, mandatory, or unified champion, something in place that we can all look at it and go, okay, well, he's only got another month to sign somebody. He's got 6 months to have a fight. So if he doesn't fight, at least you know what's happening. At the moment, what's going on, as we've just discussed with Spence and Crawford, I mean, this fight's been talked about for the last nearly 12 months, and here we are. Still no fight signed. No titles are being talked about being stripped. Nothing's been said. It's just, oh, well, it'll happen when it happens. So, I don't know. Look, I just don't have any faith whatsoever in the current sanctioning bodies because it's all about the money to those guys, and that's all they worry about. And I know they get out there and they say, oh, we're doing this and we're doing that, all for the love of the sport. And it's not about them at all. It's all about the coin. So, there you go. So, just as well not promoting anymore because I've just upset every sanctioning body. What do we got there? Andy Canelo been long gone from middleweight, but is still franchise champ. There, point exactly. There you go. Great point. So what are we doing? But the thing is, as fans, we just put up with it. We put up with it. Okay, whatever. No drama. I know there's not really a lot we can do, but geez, we keep paying. So as long as we keep paying and watching and not really caring, they'll just do whatever the hell they want to do. I don't know. There's no way around it, unfortunately. The WBC, WBA, IBF, WBO are all their own sanctioning bodies and they can do whatever the hell they want. There's nothing we can do about it. We can just have to go along with it. We've gone through it all with the franchise belts and the silver belts and interim belts and franchise belts, hiatus belts, whatever the hell you want to call it. They've got a belt for every single situation, and if they need a new belt, they'll just invent one, as we just said with WBC. Geez, what are we going to do here? People are after. We've got it's mandatory versus voluntary. We don't want him to lose his title because he pays us $300,000 per fight for sanctioning fees. What are we going to do? Oh, geez, I know. We'll just invent a franchise belt that gives him autonomy to do anything. And then we can have the lesser belt underneath. That's the one we put the strict sanctions on. But our golden boy, our golden goose, they can do whatever the hell they want. So that's just the way it rolls. But again, I have no solution whatsoever because they're privately run companies and we continue to tolerate it. And more importantly, the promoters and fighters continue to tolerate it. They get paid step-aside money, all this sort of stuff. Stuff to step-aside money. You're number one challenger, you get the fight. I don't know. What do you guys think? Keep the comments coming there, guys. I love the chatter. Dollars, All-Star Boxing. The longer you are in a professional boxing behind the scenes, you realise in reality is the wild, wild west. It is, mate. I was involved as a boxer myself for 15 years, and it was bliss. You train, you fight, you love the sport, all the rest of it. Then I made the mistake of getting involved in the business of boxing, promotion, all the rest of it, managing, and I wish I hadn't have, because I've seen that side of it, and it sucks. It really does. And now understanding it more and more. Look, to be honest with you, the average fight fan out there, well, actually, I won't say the average fight fan doesn't know, because they do. They know the way it works, but they tolerate it. But there's a vast amount of people out there who don't know, and they go, oh, well, such and such is fighting such and such, and it's going to cost this, and they just go along with the flow. And unfortunately, while it's allowed to happen, or by, as I said, promoters, fighters, whatever it might be, and it's going to keep going on, and away we'll still be here in 10 years' time, and who knows, it might even be worse. There might be another sanctioning body by then, because what they do, the sanctioning bodies come and go, oh, we'll fix it. We're going to create another organisation. This is what the WBA did, and then the IBF did, and then the WBO did. Oh, we're going to come in and we're going to correct all the wrongs. And then here we are. They all do exactly the same things. I'm not saying one's worse than the others because they're all as bad as each other. But, mate, I don't know who you are there, All-Star Boxing, but you are 100% right. It is the wild, wild west, and I don't like what I see. And it's getting worse and worse and worse and worse. So anyway, and yes, Andy, All-Star on point. Great to have you along. Again, I don't know who you are, All-Star Boxing, but, mate, great to have your comments in there, and it's really, really good to have another person in the mix. All right, let's get on to some other points. I'll just take that down there. On to the heavyweights. Okay, here we go. All right. Actually, before I move on, I've got one more comment there from All-Star Boxing. Amateur boxing is the purest for all the sport. I've always said you could take all the pros away from me, and coaching kids is a reward enough. It really makes you think other pros are worth it. I'm with you, mate. I do some training myself, and I love it. And I wouldn't mind actually getting back into the amateur side of things at some stage. But we'll see what happens there. But I'm with you. The only thing is now, we've discussed it in the last couple of weeks with the Olympic situation at the moment. It looks like the 2028 Olympics, amateur boxing is out. What does that do to amateur boxing, not just here in Australia, but all over the world? I'm really, really worried about it, I've got to say, because as someone that went to the Olympics myself, to have that carrot hanging there all through my teen years, when all my mates are going out drinking and chasing girls and whatever else they do, I'm in the gym training because I've got that carrot hanging out there, the Olympics, and that's what I had the tunnel vision for, and that's what kept me on track. If I didn't have that there, I don't know what I would have done. Not everyone wants to turn pro. Not everyone wants to be a world champion, all the rest of it. I don't know what happens to amateur boxing. I'm really, really worried about it. With especially here in Australia, so many different sports to choose. I'm not so stressed about, say, America and even England. A lot of sports over there, but there's really good coin to be made as a pro in those countries. So I can understand why the young kids go, okay, well, there's no amateurs or Olympics to aim for, but I've got my apprenticeship to do in the amateurs and I'm turning pro and I can make millions. In Australia, it's not like that. It's really not. Even the big names aren't earning, look, unless you're a Tim Zhu or George Kambosos, who are earning obviously massive money. The others, I'm sorry, unless they're fighting on international cards, just aren't making the money. Oh, there you go. It's Benny Harrington. Benny, how are you, mate? Sorry I didn't click with the All-Star Boxing, mate. I apologise. Great to have you involved in the conversation. Guys, if you're not sure who Benny Harrington is, trains Liam Wilson, Vegas Larfield, I'm sure plenty other. But, yeah, great to have you involved, mate. I have heard really good things about your son. I think he's only a little tacker, but by all accounts, he's a superstar. Just Tassie Brown's told me that, so all the best with him, mate. And I'm sure he's in good company there with watching the Liam Wilsons and Vegas Larfields of the work, of the world. So, mate, thank you for joining in the conversation, and good to have you along. Interested to hear your thoughts too, Ben, on the amateur situation. You've obviously got amateurs in your gym. How does that affect your guys, girls, and boys in the gym? Because if that was me, as I said, as a former Olympian and Commonwealth Games rep myself, I don't think I could have hung around. I really don't, because I probably made the decision in my late teens, or probably early 20s. I didn't really want to turn pro. All through my early teens, I wanted to turn pro. Of course, we all want to be world champions and all the rest of it. But as I got older, become an adult at 18, 19, 20, it was all about, I wanted to go into business. I wanted to do other things. Of course, I met my future wife, of course, so I had other things. So sort of lost that. But again, as I said, if I didn't have the Olympics there, I just don't know what I would have done and whether I would have hung around. Because the Olympics and, I suppose, Commonwealth Games to some extent have opened so many doors for me. And probably give me a little bit of credibility on doing shows like this. People say, well, he's not full of shit. I do know what I'm talking about to some extent. I don't know. I don't know. Andy, if the lines don't move for mandatory fights, it's pointless paying sanctioning fees and never getting a shot. Yeah, well, mate, who knows what goes on behind closed doors? I'm sure there's money gets paid all over the place. This, again, getting back to the titles, the sanctioning bodies. Look... It has been explained lots and lots of times, but pretty much what happens if you don't know what goes on with the sanctioning bodies, you're rewarded by the amount of sanctioning fees your promoters have paid or whatever you might have done. That's what you're judged on, not necessarily by the fighters you've beaten. Now, my point with all this is that the amount of times I've seen fighters ranked number one by an organisation, and I'm going to say the WBC, I'm not pointing fingers, I'm just plucking a sanctioning body out. Let's say it might be ranked number one by the WBC and aren't even ranked in the top 15 to 20 of the other three organisations. That shows something's wrong. That's the fighters not getting there on their merits. And that's just not the WBC. It might be ranked number one with the WBA and not ranked with the other three organisations. That's where something is wrong. There's got to be something done. Where surely all four sanctioning bodies have got a criteria. You're ranked by... I know BoxRec do it. Obviously, you get rankings points, and that's how they do the rankings and everything. Maybe there needs to be a global type of... But that, again, brings another organisation into the mix. something where all 4 sanctioning bodies agree on giving X amount or fighters X amount of points, and if one X is 50 and he beats someone's worth 20, well, there's the mix in it, and he gets a ranking across all 4 sanctioning bodies. I don't know. I'm just spitballing here. Again, is it possible? Is it not possible? But there's got to be something better out there where we can look at them all and be able to make sense of it all. I suppose that's probably what I'm trying to say the most. Something where we can make sense of what's going on. To have a fighter ranked number 1 by the WBC, again, I'm just picking an organisation, and not ranked by any other 3 in the top 15, something is wrong with the system. And I know we'll never get past the 4 sanctioning bodies, but some sort of universal ranking points or something where they all might have their own maybe different sort of formulas, but overall we have an idea of what's going on. Anyway, we've probably talked about that enough. Ben, yeah, I agree. Olympics, if taken away, is bad, but we still have Worlds and Com Games will survive. Yeah, you're right, mate. You're right. And who knows, at some stage, that, and if you guys haven't seen our last weekly show, I think I even spoke about it on the last week's show, the whole dramas with the president of the International Boxing Association. He's from Russia. It's probably political, of course, being from Russia. They tried to bring in the guy from the Netherlands, I think it was, to stand against him and try and have some sort of election. The board voted against it, kept him as the president. The IBA said, well, that's the case, then we're out. They did run the 2020 Olympics themselves, the Olympic Committee. Maybe they could do that. Or, as I said, once maybe the Russian guy maybe gets voted out along the line. They're very hard to prize out, I will say. A lot of the presidents of the IBA are in there for a long, long time. That tells you something as well. It's obviously very, very rewarding to be the president. All the perks involved and all the other positions that work their way down. That maybe they might step in then. But you're right though, mate. Especially at that early teen sort of level, you get a lot of them just do it for the love of the sport and don't have that business type of thing in their mindset at that stage. So maybe that will be the case. And you're right, we've got the Worlds, the Com Games, although there is talk the Com Games might at some stage be kaput. I think the Commonwealth Games, as you know, in the Victorian Games, not the Melbourne Commonwealth Games, the Victorian Commonwealth Games, all the events will be in regional Victoria. And I have had a couple of people tell me in the know that if it doesn't work, then that could be the end of the Commonwealth Games, especially as far as Australia goes, as far as wanting to stage it. The costs involved and everything else. Yeah, who knows? The other thing I will say, Benny, which could obviously happen, is the WBA, WBC, IBF and WBO get involved in the amateurs. I know the WBC are at the moment. There is a WBC amateur program. Maybe they might have their own tournaments, their own pathway, if you will, where they might say, okay, this is the WBC World Championships or the WBC Championships, whatever you want to call it. And the fighters that go there, almost like an Olympic Games, where the best fight the best. They get the WBC World Amateur belt, and that's the way they do it. Maybe it's the same for amateurs, and then once you get up to a certain level, then you can progress to the pros. I don't know. But who knows? Why couldn't there be a World or WBC World or WBA, whatever it might be, World Amateur Champion? Just saying. So that would give the guys, the young guys, something a little bit to aim towards, and girls, because then when they turn, maybe it's 21, I don't know, then they're allowed to go to the pros, 18, whatever it might be. Again, just spitballing, but yeah, you're right. Everyone finds a way, but the Olympics is the pinnacle. I went to 2 World Championships, but they're pretty much pushed to the side because it's about the Olympic Games. So anyway, Ben again, yes, my son is Taj. He's a pain in my ass. You know what it is, mate? He's getting too many pats on the back. You know, tell everyone to stop patting him on the back and let him get to work. I'm sure he'll be a good little fighter. I will say too, another young kid I'm really got big raps on too is the son of a gun, if you will, is Shannon O'Connell's son Cooper. Really, really good young kid. I think he's only 15 or 16, I think he is. He's got some ability as well. So let's hope that he aspires to be in it for the long haul, because he's got some real ability as well. All Stars have probably the strongest amateur team up here in Queensland. Very much respect by us at No Deal. Okay, if that's the case, then that's great, Ben, that you've got such a great amateur team out there. So you're obviously one of the ones that can give us the best advice as far as what you think. So which you've just done then. So thanks for that. So yeah, I'm with you, Ben. I think that we'll find a way. Let's hope so. Ben Davis, good evening, LH. Good evening to you, Benjamin. Great to have you along, mate. If you've got a question, chuck it in there. Thanks, Shane. Congrats on the success at recent Queensland titles from the No Deal Boys. Legends. Good stuff, guys. No Deal Boys, sorry. Well, that's good, Benjamin. That's good to get a compliment. Really respect the show, Lyndon. I love Tassie, and I enjoy watching your shows. I'm thinking that he's there, and appreciate the opinions. Yeah, Tassie, yep, look, he's a handful, but he says it the way he sees it. And you had to have seen him in Las Vegas to understand that. He's definitely a mover and shaker, Ben. A lot of what he says can upset a few people, but look, end of the day, it's just an opinion show. And if you don't like it, you don't have to watch, I suppose. But I'm glad you like it. And let's try and get a few more views out there, of course. Not a dumb idea, but maybe one day do a live stream Zoom call with some of your followers. That's what this show is supposed to be, Benjamin, and I have got the ability to do it. And I am looking at, this is what the whole show was about not just having your comments on there, but actually having you guys come on. Now, this one, what I might do next week, let's give it a go. I've been saying it for about the last 6 weeks. I have got the ability just to put the link in there. You click on it and I can bring you on the show. I have had some worries about my internet, but I think I might listen to, my wife's been telling me for the last few weeks, just go ahead and give it a crack. And if it doesn't work and the stream starts to stop and lag and everything else, then we might have to go to Zoom. I think the Zooms can work a little bit better than this particular program, so we might do that instead. But next week, let's give it a go. If it doesn't work, we'll go back to the comments on this platform, but then we might give it a go on Zoom and see how we go. If you guys like the idea, let me know, because without you, the show doesn't exist. But that's what the whole show was about, is actually having you guys come on and talking with you guys on the show rather than just in the comment section there. So I've said it, next week from 7:30 I will give you the ability to actually come on, and we'll just see how it goes. And hopefully we don't get the lag and stop, start and everything else. But let's give it a crack, because it's a lot more fun to actually have you guys. And I think it's a lot easier too. Sometimes it's hard to type out what you're sort of getting at. But if you're actually on here, we can discuss it, and maybe that'll bring a few more on. So I only have one at a time. I haven't got the ability to have 4 different people at one time, but that would really put some strain on the stream. So we might just bring one on and give it a go. But good idea, Benjamin. Was the case since the start. I just haven't had the confidence to do it, but I am going to do it. All right, Shane, cheers, Ben. Yep, Paddy and Luke have had a great year. I'm assuming they're your amateur fighters, so good stuff, guys. Keep it up. We really need you guys with the amateurs. Keep them coming. We've got a great amateur program at the moment in Boxing Australia, and I know Boxing Queensland, probably no coincidence, I've always been one of the strongest states, along with New South Wales. Down here in Victoria, of course, we have had our moments, and some good fighters recently, of course, with Harry Garside at the Olympics. But Queensland always seemed to be the dominant state. Yes, Andy, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe. Yep, good stuff, mate. Ben again, also heard from Australia, new head coach a couple of weeks ago, that Australia will go back to qualifying for Olympics through Oceania. Yeah, well, that's an interesting one, Ben. I haven't heard that one. Now, when I went to the Olympics, it was actually through the Oceania as well. And I will admit, we had 8 fighters at the games that I went to in '96 in Atlanta. I've got to admit, maybe it might have been 3 or 4 that would have got through. I'm not saying I would have or wouldn't have, because you don't know. That went through the Oceania. We had it very, very easy compared to a lot of other countries. And we just had to beat the New Zealanders and obviously the Fijians, Samoans, Tongans, and all that sort of stuff. So I won't say we had it easy, but we had it easier, because you got Asia and Europe and the Americas. They had some gunfighters that didn't make it because they just didn't quite qualify in the region, but were definitely good enough to go to the Olympics, or World Championships. So that's an interesting one, Ben. Thanks for letting me know that. But if that is the case, you will find that Australia will probably have full teams of men and women, I would probably think. Because I think there's a fair gap between us and probably New Zealand, which are the second ranked country in the Oceania, I would think. So that's probably good for Aussies, that we will have a lot more qualify. Benjamin again, a great talking point. Maybe who was the country's best amateur who never turned pro? Yeah, we have done the best amateurs, and that caused a bit of discussion, I will say. A lot of people said great, others said you don't know what the hell you're talking about, and that's what happens when you have a top 10 of anything, I suppose. And I don't back away from it, it's just my opinion. I think Tassie might have done his as well on our Thursday show. Best amateur never turned pro. There's probably a few out there. I know a few really good amateurs that never turned pro, I will say. If it's Australia talking about, I'd have to do some investigating if it's worldwide. Yes, Ben, great point there. Richie Rolls for me. He was a brilliant amateur, Richie Rolls. I learnt the hard way. I fought Richie back in the 93 Olympics and got put on my ass against him. Became really good friends afterwards, and we had some great sparring sessions over the years because he went up to light middleweight and I stayed at welterweight. Great friends over the years. As I said, we had some great ring tussles after that. But yeah, he put me on my ass in the 93 Nationals. So I know where you're coming from. So yeah, so good point. And keep them coming if you've got any more out there. But really good point there was Richie Rolls. Ben, again, Ben Harrington. Yes, her WBC may take it over. Imagine that more. Yeah, good point, mate. Geez, of all the sanctioning bodies to take over the world amateur scene based on corruption, the WBC takes it over. I don't know. Maybe I'll take back what I said now. Maybe keep the sanctioning bodies out of it and maybe create a whole new one. I don't know. But I don't think it's actually a bad idea. What do you guys think? To actually have a world, apart from the IBA that just run different tournaments, to actually have a world champion like they do on the pros and have ranked contenders who have voluntary and mandatory defences? Do we go back to all this bullshit we've been talking about earlier on in the episode? Or does that got some merit? Maybe it does, to actually have a proper belt that's ranked like the pros. I don't know. Yes, Richie Rolls, great call. Ben, good stuff. Richie's record as an amateur, I don't know exactly. I could probably reach out to him and ask him. The thing with Richie, though, he was probably one of those guys that fell into the category of just being pretty much unbeatable at national level, but struggled a little bit on the world scene for whatever reasons. And there's plenty of fighters out there that are in the same boat that are so dominant at national level, but just struggle a little bit at world level for whatever reason it might be. And when Richie got to Olympic level and Commonwealth Games level, probably didn't get the results that I thought he was capable of. But at that weight, like middleweight, a lot of really, really good fighters around at those weights. So it's one of those catch-22 sort of things. But I can find out, mate, and I will do that. And yes, Cooper O'Connell is a gun. He just needs to get a bit more dedicated, Ben. He's got all the ability in the world. I hope he doesn't sort of get lost to it with his mum doing what she's doing at the moment. I see he trains with her all the time, goes to all the events. I'm hoping when he hits sort of 16, 17, and now that we've got the no limits out there and the DNL's out there and of course now Matchroom and everyone else going on, there's that really big incentive out there just to hang around, because I know when I was there, another reason why I didn't turn pro, we didn't have the no limits, we didn't have the DNLs, certainly didn't have a Matchroom, had none of that. A lot of small time promotions going on and a lot of sacrifice that was needed and just not the money there to make it worthwhile. So now it's a different kettle of fish, and hopefully the Cooper O'Connells hang around. I know his mum would like him too. Shane, imagine the gravy train and brown paper bags getting around at WBC World Amateur Championships. Yes, as I said, Shane, I'll probably take back what I said about maybe having a WBC or whatever it might be organisation. And look, let's face it doesn't really matter what organisation or sanctioning body takes it on. It's always going to be the same. You hear all about it. It's never going to be different. And as I said before, there's a reason why the president of the IBA hangs around for a long, long, long time, because the perks they get must be pretty substantial, I would think. Anyway, there you go. Richie had roughly 150 amateurs. Okay, I didn't know that. 120 odd wins with 80 odd stoppages. Wow. He lives near me, and I went and got him to sign a singlet for me a few years ago when he wrote out his record for me. We wrote his record. Yeah, that's an awesome amateur record, mate. 150, 120 wins. And I reckon out of those 30 losses, if that's what he had, probably about 25 of them would have been all international fights. I would think he didn't lose a lot. I know he lost in 92 at the Nationals in Darwin. That was my first Nationals. That's when I actually won my first one. and he actually got knocked out by Danny McGrail from South Australia, who could bang. Danny McGrail didn't do a lot after that, I will say. He turned pro and had some really good fights, but it didn't really do a lot in the amateurs. Richie went up in weight. I think it was better for him, being a lot stronger, and then obviously at light middleweight. But 80 stoppages, that's crazy. That is amazing. You just don't see that in the amateurs. And I've literally seen him cave blokes' heads in with one punch. And I'm not joking. Literally punch them and break cheekbones. I've seen that probably a couple of times. But I will say he put me on my ass, but he couldn't knock me out. That's one thing he never knocked me out. So, but he did make me do a couple of backward somersaults. But I got all the respect in the world for Richie, and as I said, we're still great mates, and it'd be great to catch up with him again soon. I haven't seen him for about 6 years. It's been. We had a little get together at one of my shows. We had an Olympic reunion, if you will, a 20-year reunion. Got them all down, had a table, and had a few drinks. It was awesome. So we had Robbie Peden was there, Justin Crawford, I think Lee Troush. I think that was about it. I think the others couldn't really, and obviously Richie. So the others couldn't make it. But yeah, that's another good one too, mate. Henry Collins could have been a great pro. Yep, he was an excellent amateur as well. Keep him coming. Brings back a lot of memories, these guys, because I fought alongside a lot of these guys. Henry was a great guy. I think we went to the Commonwealth Games together. I think it was. Will Shear was another one. I don't think he turned pro. He was a good little amateur. Anyway, keep it coming, guys. Boxer Learner, how are you from Texas, USA? How are you, mate? I don't know what your name is there, so put it in the comments there. Great to have you along from Texas. Great to have a international viewer. We're pretty much talking amateur boxing here, mate. Aussie boxing, but let us know your thoughts and comments on whatever you want to talk about. We have been talking about Crawford and Spence, Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn, and we'll get to the heavyweights in a sec. Welcome, yes. Justin Kane, yes. I'll put that back up there. Where is that gone? Justin Kane, if he was right, could have gone a long way in the pros also. Yeah, he was. Now, did he win a Commonwealth Games gold medal, Ben? Was that at the 2002 or 2006? Maybe I've got that wrong. I'm pretty sure he won a Commonwealth Games gold medal, but I have actually heard a lot of really good things about him. He would have been a gun. I've heard that numerous times. Have said that. So that's an interesting one. But yeah, so keep them coming, guys. Now we'll keep the comments as we go. I'm going to jump ahead. As I said, there's probably a 30-second lag, so I'll go back if we get a comment or question in there. So last weekend, of course, was Joe Joyce. He beat Joseph Parker, of course, by stoppage in the 11th round. He initially put out to Tyson Fury. He was willing to take the December 3rd fight if Anthony Joshua didn't want it. Now, from all accounts, Anthony Joshua wants the fight, but as always, there's the red tape that gets thrown around. So that fight doesn't look like happening. So, but Anthony Joshua, look, he's put out there about, just to backtrack there, Commonwealth Games gold medal for Justin Kane. Yep. So Joshua, I don't think he really wants that December 17 date if it's not Fury involved. He's just obviously just fought a few months back, so he would not fight probably till middle of next year, I'm probably thinking. But Joe Joyce has put it out there for December 17. But now Andy Ruiz has actually put it out there that he would like to fight Tyson Fury on December 3rd if Joshua doesn't want it. Now, Fury's also put out Manuel Char, Luis Ortiz, who just lost to Andy Ruiz, so I don't know why he would be out there, or Filip Rogovic, I think that's how you pronounce it, who absolutely have no interest to me at all. So I don't know what is going on with that, but what do you guys think? We'll answer a couple of questions before that though, so keep just comment on the heavyweights. Putting you on the spot, you can pick any Oz amateur or pro under 10 fights right now to promote for the career you're taking. Oh, you can pick any Oz amateur or pro under 10 fights. Oh, geez, that's a really good question. I don't really know a lot of the amateurs. You can probably say Harry Garside, but I've got real worries about his hands. I would probably have to go on there and have a look. 10 fights or under. You'll probably have to let me have a think about that one. I think Mitch, because I can't think. All the ones I'm thinking of have had more than 10 fights. Again, I don't really know a lot of the amateur scene. Look, if it's male or female, if it's both involved, I would probably say Sky Nicholson as far as having the most potential, I suppose you could say, as a female. For the guys, who knows? Could be Vegas Larfield could be one. It sort of springs to mind. I think, correct me if I'm wrong here, Ben, but Liam Wilson's had over 10 fights. I think he's had mid-teens, has he? I think, if I'm not mistaken. I'll have to have a think about that, Mitch. But for the girls, it will be Sky Nicholson. For the guys, I just don't know. The only one I can really think of is Harry Garside. I'll come back to you on that one. Maybe it's Ben Harrington's son, Taj, was it? Haven't seen him fight yet, but by all accounts, he's got the goods. So we'll see what happens there. Mitch Cook, won't be letting go of him. Benny, that's Vegas Larfield. Yep, I just said Vegas. So yep. And he's like a son to me, with or without boxing. Love the kid. That's good stuff, man. I'm glad you got that relationship with him. And I really like the way we'll say that you're bringing him along. He's not being rushed along. There's no pressure from outside noise to make him step up a bit too quick. Really don't see the sense in guys. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, he's still a teenager. He's only late teens. So I really cannot see the sense in pushing him along. Get him 20, even 25, probably not 30 fights, but 20, 25 fights up to his early 20s, and then start progressing. There's really no rush, and why put him in there with those top, the more experienced guys if you don't need to. Oh, there you go. Paulo Akuso. Hit it on the head. How good is that guy? I'm not so sure he'll beat Jeff Fennick's record, I will say, by getting a world title in his 7th fight, but this kid can fight. The only thing I will say about Paulo is I know, again, it's all about the social media and the presence and all the rest of it. I would really just like Paulo just focus on his boxing and not be so talkative, if that's the sense, if that's what I'm trying to say. I just think of him as just an awesome young fighter who will no doubt fight for a world title at some stage. That's a given. But he just doesn't need to be, as vocal as he is, I suppose, if that's the word. But either way, just a great, great young kid. On to the heavyweights. All right, Tyson Fury bluffed us with the AJ. Next talk, yes, as he always does, mate. He is the master. He's the king. Ruiz more likely fights PBC Wilder after Alenius, which is the October 15th, I think it is. Gypsy King fight Joel Van Char. What is he thinking? Surely he can't be serious about fighting Manuel Char. He has got a good background. Char held a version of the WBA title. He fought one of the Klitschko's. But he's 38 years old. Surely there's someone else he could fight. Luis Ortiz, as I said, just got beat. Flip Hrgovic, who beat the big Chinese fighter. He's no challenge either. Probably makes sense if Tyson Fury wants to fight on December 3rd. I think Andy Ruiz is a really good call. Really good. I think he's got credibility. I think he could easily be sold as the guy that beat Joshua. But like you just said, then maybe he fights Wilder instead. Who knows? Who knows what goes on these days? I've given up trying to keep track. But yeah, could fight Lord Van Char. He may get an IBO world title before Jeff, but it's an IBO. It's not quite the same. Yeah, mate. I don't really rate the IBO. I'm sorry. I just don't. I stick to the big four. What I will say is that it's obviously a stepping stone to bigger and better things. As long as you know where you stand. I've got no dramas people fighting for the IBO or WBF, or as long as they as they say, you stay in your lane. You stay in your lane and you say, okay, I know I'm the IBO champion. I understand I'm not the world champion, but it gives me the ability and a ranking, ability to fight X amount of fighters for X amount of ranking, whatever it might be. So if that's the case, just as long as we know where we stand, or more importantly, the fighters know where they stand, and don't puff the chest out and say they're a world champion, because I'm sorry, with all due respect, you're not. You're just not. Ruiz couldn't reach Fury. How good would that be? For everyone listening to this, of course, on Spotify after this has been televised, of course, Ruiz couldn't reach Fury with a stepladder. How would that look? Do you think Ruiz even gets close to Fury? I don't think he could. I know Joshua was a big guy and he had the height on Joshua. But, yeah, geez, I'm not sure exactly how tall Ruiz is, but it can't be more than about 5'10", 5'11", could it? And what's Fury? About 6'10", 6'11", whatever it might be. Or 6'9". Either way, he's a big man who would be funny to look at. And could Ruiz get close enough to do some damage? I think not. So anyway, we'll see what happens. All right, I'll just get that one down. All right, so just a quick one, guys, before we get on to the Super Saturday. Sebastian Fundora this weekend is fighting Carlos Ocampo for the WBC interim title. It's at Carson City in LA. I think it used to be the Home Depot Center back in the day, and now it's called something else. But so it's interesting because if he wins that, you would think the winner of Zhu Charlo will fight Fundora after that, you would think. So it's got some bearing on what happens here in Australia. We're counting the days, I will say, on Zhu Charlo. We haven't obviously discussed it at length at all, because we're still about 4 months away. Who would have thought? Looks like it was announced about 3 months ago, and we've still got 4 months to go. But anyway, hopefully it's worth the wait. All right. Let's get on to, firstly, we'll get on to the zone. I did say that at the start, didn't I, before Super Saturday. Coming up, I did say to everyone a couple of weeks ago, why do we even have this app anymore? It's not even worth it. However, we've got October 15th, Jarvis and Paro. From what I heard, that is free. It's not going to cost any additional money, so that's great. Can't wait to see it. It's on the night before Kambosos and Haney. How good's that going to be? So I've got that, but this weekend, Eubank and Ben. Now, it's been advertised on DAZN, but it's also being advertised on Main Event for $60. So, do we have to pay if we've got DAZN? If we don't, I mean, why would you pay the $60 on Main Event? We can pay, I think it's $14 and get it on DAZN. So, let me know, guys, if you know any different. The only downside is at 5 o'clock in the morning. So, if you want to get up at 5 o'clock on a Sunday morning, we discussed it earlier with the Bridges and O'Connell situation. Eubank Jr. and Connor Ben. I haven't made up my mind yet whether I'm going to get up and watch it. It's early, guys. It's way too early. 5 o'clock in the morning. I'll definitely be up for Bridges and O'Connell, but I'm not sure. I haven't made the decision whether this is important enough. We'll just get up and watch the replay. But anyway, after that, of course, Paro Jarvis, as we just said. October 30th, Katie Taylor. I haven't written her opponent up there. Carbajal. That's at 5 o'clock in the morning as well. So that's October 30. Also on October 30th at a more acceptable 12 noon, Jojo Diaz is back against William Zepeda. November 6th, this will be a ripper. Dimitri Bivol, Gilberto Ramirez. Again, 5 o'clock in the morning. November 13th, Montana Love, Stevie Spark. This is going to be a ripper. 11 o'clock in the morning. Can't wait to see that one. And on December 4th, this will be on at lunchtime. 1, Francisco Estrada, Chocolatito Gonzalez, 3. Cannot wait for that one. All right. Sorry, Ben. You mentioned the DAZN price rising here last week. I cancelled. Get it back, mate. You still might have time. It's $14. Look, end of the day, you can cancel it month by month. I think at the start you had to sign up for 12 months. Now you can do it month by month. Now for $14, that's the Paro Jarvis Eubank Ben fights just right there and then. And even you throw in the Katie Taylor fight. That's worth the money, just even for that one fight, Paro and Jarvis. So, yep, I know I did say don't get it, but I just resubscribed. But I might cancel again before the end of the year. We'll see. Again, Benny, thanks, mate. Really appreciate these comments, mate. Really good to have your input. I can't see him doing shit to Fury. This is Andy Ruiz, 6'9", okay? But he's a traveller, so he's probably fought blokes the same shape out the back with Ben. No, probably has, actually. So, look, I think it'd be a really good fight. I think Ruiz takes it right up to Fury. The only thing is it just comes down to height and reach. But Fury's not the type of guy that'll keep you off with a stiff jab. He tends to like to flick the jab more than anything. He likes to tie you up and lean on you. So, yeah, it'd be an interesting fight. Ruiz has actually got a pretty good work rate. And that's probably something that Fury wouldn't like, is someone that really makes him fight 3 minutes of every round. He tends to sort of push, lean, sort of fights the fight at his own pace. And again, that's what good fighters do. But Ruiz might just get him out of his comfort zone, being with that higher work rate. And you just don't know. But out of all those fighters, apart from Joshua, Ruiz is the one I'd like to see get in there with him. Intelligent guys, Fundora, so Sebastian Fundora. He fights small for such a tall man, but he's a hard fight for anyone. I actually stood next to him, where was it, at the International Boxing Hall of Fame inductions in Canastota, what was it, 2 or 3 months back, 3 months back, whatever it was. He is an absolute monster. He's about this thin, but it was like looking up at him like that. Really, really lovely guy, I will say. Had time for everyone, and he can obviously fight. He's going to be a handful for whatever, I suppose, non-Charlo and non-Zoo fighters that he fights. I don't think he can keep those guys off. The others in the division, I think he's got a good chance of beating, but I think Zoo and Charlo chop him down. I really do. I just don't think, and he's gettable. He had a hard fight last time out. He got dropped, but I think he's the guy that they will fight next. Eubank Jr. versus Ben is add-on for $41.99. Is that right? On DAZN? Well, I won't be getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning for it. Is that right, Ross? Eubank Jr. versus Ben is an add-on event for $42 on top of your monthly subscription. Well, sorry, DAZN, I ain't paying that money. I'm going to cancel again. Is the Jarvis and Paro fight an add-on as well? Can someone find that out? Because if it is, I'll cancel it as well. Although I would probably pay $50 or $60 just for that fight, I will say. Anyway, that is highway robbery, by the way. $42 extra for Eubank Jr. and Ben. Not paying it. Fundora is amazing. Silly fight when Daniel Lewis fought him. Yeah, it was. Ended up being his last fight. We lost a good kid in Daniel Lewis. Now, Ben, can you shed some light on this? We have had some comments, not just on this show, but our other shows that we do, asking about Daniel Lewis. I hope he's not lost to the sport. I have so much respect for Daniel Lewis as a fighter and as a person. I met him in Vegas. It would have been before the Fundora fight. So whenever that was before the pandemic, I'm assuming. He was over there. Actually, it was. I think we were over there for Canelo and Daniel Jacobs. And we met him. He was there with Peter Matreski Jr. Such a lovely, lovely, humble guy. Couldn't get boo out of him. Just a really, really nice guy, as I said. So I'd be shattered if that is the end of him, because he had so much ability. When he did lose to Fundora, silly mistake taking that fight, I will say. It was a bad fight for him. I can understand he wanted to fight on a big card. I got no qualms with that. But, was the loss really worth taking? It was always going to be a tough fight for him at that stage of his career. So, yeah, bad management there, I would think. So if you've got some updates on Daniel Lewis, that'd be great, mate, because I hope we haven't lost him to the sport. I know he has had some issues outside of the ring, so let's hope we get him back. Damn, got a wedding on Saturday, probably still be drunk when the fight is on. Hey, well, at least you won't have to get up at 5 o'clock, mate. You can just stay up and watch it. Yeah, anyway. I ain't really drinking. I don't really get out much these days at my age. But yeah, if they're charging $42, I certainly won't be getting up for it. Benny, I think he's lost. This is Daniel Lewis. I think he's lost to the sport. I haven't seen or heard anything of him for a couple of years. That's a real shame, mate. When I'm on social media, I do sometimes look him up to see whether he's back, because he did get really proactive on social media at one stage, which was great. He was fighting regularly. I think he beat Wade Ryan. He beat, just trying to think who else he beat. He had that win in did he have a fight? He did fight in America. He did, I think. But as I said, he beat Wade Ryan. So he was definitely on the way. Would have been some really, really good fights for him. I know there was talk at one stage he might fight Tim Tszyu when Zarafa pulled out. But now these days he's got fights against the Ben Mahoney's. He's got Camilleri. There's some really good fights out there for him. Kozan Mazodia, maybe who's the other guy, the Russian Mikhailovich. So there would have been some really good fights for him. So I really look, all things aside with boxing, I just really hope that he gets himself together outside the ring. That's obviously more important. But that's a real shame if that is the case. And if that is the case, then let's hope that he gets the help that he needs, and we might see him back at some stage. Because if you don't know, out there, Daniel Lewis, Olympian, world champion, rep, all the rest of it. I'm not sure. I'm assuming he went to the Commonwealth Games. Just a really, really good, tough kid who can fight. So I hope we haven't lost him. Lewis beat them all in the amateurs. He just bullied people around, no worries at all. Now, if I'm not mistaken, mate, you might be able to fill this in. He actually beat Tim Tszyu in the amateurs. I remember seeing him fight in Melbourne. I was at the Calabria Club in Melbourne for a fight. I can't remember what it was for, and he fought down there, and whoever he fought, he just absolutely bullied him and battered him. It was really good display of boxing. Lewis is Tim's only loss in the amateurs. Well, there you go. So just goes to show what might have been. So again, as I said, let's just hope he gets the help that he needs, and he's not lost to boxing entirely. We are a very caring family, the boxing family. We get a bit of a bad rap on different things, and we've had a bit to say about the sanctioning bodies and that. But at the end of the day, the boxing fraternity tends to support their own. So let's hope if he needs some help, he reaches out for it. All right, guys, so that's the DAZN stuff out of the way. Let's get into Super Saturday. Before actually we get into that, I'm going to switch over to my screen here. All right, so a couple of fight shows this weekend apart from Super Saturday. Just quickly, we've got the Mansfield Tavern. This is the Ace Boxing show. All right, so we've got Adrian Rodriguez against Victor Nagby. Looking forward to this one. I've seen Rodriguez fight a couple of times. He's tough as nails. Victor Nagby, don't be mistaken by or misled by the records there. Rodriguez looks like, he had 19 fights. Victor Nagby only the 4. However, he has had a big, is it kickboxing or Muay Thai or one of those arts background. He's a world champion in one of those. Has had 4 fights, but if I click on his name here, you will see that his last fight was against Sam Solomon, former world champion, if you will. So he beat him over 10 rounds. And look at his record, though. The record there. Some really good wins there. Apart from obviously Sam Solomon being the big one. Terry Nicholas, a very, very good fighter. Beat him over 6. Fano Corey, I know he's 6-3, but again, another very, very tough competitor. He beat him as well. And Joel Wright, who had big raps on him as an amateur. I think I promoted his first fight in Warrnambool. He had some big raps as well. Beat him as well. So he can definitely fight. So that's a really, really good fight, that one. The other one, Ricky Silva, 5-1 against Damenda Gural, 7-1. So it looks like a really good fight. I'm not quite sure. They haven't looked like they've updated the box record. I haven't got the rest of the card in front of me. We did cover this last week on the deep dive show. We'll cover it in depth again on Thursday night, this one. And then, of course, the main event, Floyd Masson versus Mauricio Barragan. 12-0 is Masson against 18-5 against Barragan. Now, I'm going to click on Barragan's name because I think he was in Australia a couple of years ago, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. Excuse me again. 2018. He fought Mark Flanagan and was stopped in 6 rounds. So he is back. You can see there he had a couple of losses there. One in Grozny, wherever that is. Looks like, is that somewhere in Europe, by the looks of things. And Canada had a win in his last fight. All right, so that's that one. The other one on this weekend at the St Kilda Town Hall, Will Tomlinson's Wild Fighter. I spoke to Will today. I think it's almost sold out. There are tickets available. I'll get to that in a sec. I'm not quite sure who the main event is. I'm assuming it's Caesar Avacan, who's very, very good fighter, is Caesar. 3-1 fighting Trent Harrison. Adam Spool fighting, can't pronounce his name, making his debut. Luke Gersbeck 2-1 against Rafael Vilches, 1-0, and a couple of other fights there. But that is at St Kilda Town Hall. Now, if you want to, you haven't got tickets yet and you want to go, it's this Saturday night. Go to the Friday night. It's on. Sorry, not Saturday night. Friday night. Go. You can't just walk up to the door and buy the tickets. Go online, wildfighter.com.au, I think it is, and buy tickets on there. I don't think they're selling them at the door, so jump online, wildfighter.com.au. It is. So check that out. All right, on to Super Saturday before we finish up. Now, look, there's 20-odd fights here. I'm not going to go through every single one. Apologies to all the fighters there. I'm just going to work my way up of the ones I sort of know and the ones I've seen fight and the ones obviously of note. Now, there's a few 4 rounds and that thrown in there. We'll start with the girls up there. Ashley Sims. I'll just go over to her. Ashley Sims, 0-1-1. She got stopped in her last fight. It has shown a bit. The first fight she had was against Chanel Dargan, who's fighting on the card as well. She's fighting Sarah Watt, who's 1-2-1. Chanel Dargan's fighting Alicia Abied, who's 1-5. You expect her to win that one. This one should be interesting. Cody Beacon, 3-1 against Lockie Higgins, who had an upset in his last fight. Let's just click on he's 8-5-2, but he's a bit of a journeyman, is Lockie, but he always fights whoever and whenever. So you can see there he beat, that's right, Benjamin Hussein, an upset second round knockout only last month. So he's backing up with Cody Beacon over 6 rounds. Beacon, as I said, 3-1. All right, who else we got there? Oh, here we go. Sorry, I've missed your comments there, guys. Sorry, I will get on there. All right, yep, Dryden versus Nikita Zoo. Yep. Oh, here you go. Benny Harrington, you should be first on with Lyndon next week. Hey, mate, it'd be great to have you on. I'll put the link in if you want to come on. Then happy to give it a try. It'd be great to have that element to it where we give it a go. And as I said earlier, we'll just see how the stream goes. Prediction, I'll get to that in a sec, Benjamin, about Dryden and Zoo. Oh, okay. What's happened here? Floyd Masson out with injury. So is the card off, or I'm assuming the card will still go ahead? I didn't know that, mate. I only checked BoxRec today. They obviously haven't updated it. So, yep. So that is a real shame because that must have only been in the last few days. All right, so the fight got cancelled. Okay. All right, Cesar beat Vegas in 2016 when they were 38 kilograms. He's a good kid from a good family. Yes, 100%, mate. I've met his dad a few times. Really, really nice guy. And Cesar, I've never actually met him, but seems like a really good young kid as well. And he can fight. He can bang. Looks like he can box as well. So Will Tomlinson getting behind Cesar. So let's hope he goes on to bigger and better things. And who knows, we might have a rematch between the two down the track, mate, when they've both got a few wins and maybe belts under their belt. What's the go with Ella Boot fight for the Australian female super lightweight title? The opponent has won 4-round bout for a draw, according to BoxRec. So which ones is that on? Is that on? Oh yeah, there you go. Sorry, we'll get to that, mate. That is right here. I'll get to that. Ella Boot. Yeah. Look, I don't know how it works, Mitch. Ella Boot 2-0 against a girl who's had one draw for the Australian super lightweight title. Yeah. Who was that draw to? Let's have a look. So she's had one fight. So that was in April this year, the Melbourne Convention Centre. So that would have been then, that would have been on the Hardman-Zarafa card, if that's the case. And I would have seen that one. So she wasn't too bad. But the fight for an Australian title first up, or second up, look, I know the girls are a little bit different, and I know they're trying to get many belts out there, the Australian and Australasian belts out there. But it does raise the eyebrows a little bit, doesn't it? And Ella Boot 2-0. So who does she fought? She fought, where are we? Convention Centre in Brisbane back in June. And she had another one in 2001. So, yeah, I'm not quite sure. They've got wraps on her. I've only sort of seen bits and pieces of her, so I can't really comment on that one, Mitch. But, yeah, we'll see. Upset against my guy. Congrats to him. He fights anyone, anywhere. Is he your guy? I didn't know that. That's Lockie Higgins. I didn't know Benjamin Hussein was your guy, mate. He'll be back. Now, is it right? Benjamin Hussein, is he the one that had the cut or the broken jaw from a year or two ago? That was horrific, that one. But yeah, Lockie Higgins, he fights anyone, anywhere, and yeah, you got to give him credit for that. I remember seeing him fight at the 2014 Nationals in Perth. He fought Nikita Zoo, and I think they were both maybe featherweights. They might have been, or lightweights, whatever it been. I was at about eight or 9 years ago. That was. So yeah. All right. So the rest of the card, let's get onto it there. So we've just been over the two girls. Bailey Mannix 7-0 against Dan Murray 4-2 light heavyweight. Now is that? I'll just click on that there. Now Bailey Mannix. There he is there. Yeah. Sorry, he has got some wraps on him as well. So he's looking at there. All right, so he's up against Dan Murray. I'm not quite sure. I know Bailey Mannix has got some wraps on him. We'll see what happens with him. Probably start to try and up the ante as far as his competition goes. What do we got here? Ben, back in the day, people were proud to fight for the Aussie title, really proud. Times have changed a bit. They need the Aussie title to hold some weight with the rankings. Yeah, it's a good point, mate. I actually went to a seminar, I think I might have said this a week or two ago. I went to a get together in Sydney about 4 or 5 years ago with all the promoters were invited. Only about 8 of us turned up. Every promoter around Australia was invited. From memory, Brian Amatruda, Angelo De Carlo, I think Paul Nassari. There's a few us there anyway, but it was brought up about how do we make the Australian title more prestigious. It wasn't so much about the Australasian title, it was about the Aussie title. There were suggestions about, making the belt better, maybe not being able to fight for a regional belt until you'd fought for the Aussie belt. That's obviously gone by the wayside. I must admit, mate, I won Aussie titles, I won international titles, and the Aussie titles always were the most prestigious for me. I proudly display my gold medals in the Aussie titles, but not so stressed about whether it be Oceania titles. I won a Commonwealth title once, and medalled in a couple of others, but the Australian title for me is always where it's at. So I'm with you. I'm with you, mate. So getting back to that, as I said, they tried to make it so you couldn't fight for a regional title without first fighting for an Aussie title. I actually agree with that, I will say. I know they tried the social media and ramping up the website and trying this and trying that. I got a feeling along the line the interest in that sort of waned a little bit. Maybe the board's changed, I don't know. But at the end of the day, there should be a lot more prominence put on Australian titles. I really think they should. And maybe by getting the Aussie title, not only fighting for a regional title after that, but maybe gives you some sort of points towards international rankings as such. I'm not sure, but maybe there's just got to be some incentives to fight, because at the moment people are just jumping over them on the way to regional titles, and I don't think that's the way it should be. Mannix is Pittman's boy. Oh, well, it was in good hands, and it was with Jamie Pittman, who's obviously head of the amateur program in Australia. Can't be in better hands with Jamie Pittman. So that's good. Yes, Ben, there's a good case to be made there with the strength of Oz boxing. Yep, that's in relation to, with the Aussie titles. How about Justice Huni getting a shot in first fight? Yeah, I like Huni, but was doing some head scratching. Yeah, matey, I agree with you. Great amateur fight, or very, very good amateur fighter. But fighting for an Australian title in your first fight. Look, it was a D&L promotion on TV. His big things are projected for him. It goes on and on and on. The rules tend to change, depends on who it is. But I don't agree with it. Should not be the case. I just don't like it. Look, end of the day, could have been worse. He could have went straight to a regional belt. He did fight for an Aussie title in his first fight, but should not be able to happen. I don't care who they are. All right. Ben again, make it so that you can't fight for it before you've had 10 fights or something like that. Yeah, even better. Maybe with the girls, maybe 5 fights, maybe, and with the males, 10 fights. Good call. And look, I think if they had another maybe get together, there could be some advice given. But I've just got a feeling that maybe it's gone in the too hard basket, or as I said before, the boards maybe changed, or something's happened where, it's the emphasis has been lost. And even the Australasian title, put that aside. I don't really care about the Australasian title. Let's focus on the Aussie title and get our Aussies fighting. I understand they want to get the Kiwis, but there's not enough Kiwi fighters out there either. And it's always Australia versus Australia, or Australia versus New Zealand. You don't see Samoans or Fijians and Tongans fighting for it. So it's just a waste. Make it for the Aussie title. We'll put the emphasis on that. All right, guys. So we'll keep tracking on here. We want to end pretty soon. It's been a pretty long night already. Didn't think we had a lot to talk about tonight, but here we are. We're an hour and 43 minutes into the program. All right, we'll just jump up. We'll skip Nikita and Dark and Dryden for a sec. Let's jump up to Jade Mitchell and Mark Lucas. Now, this really hasn't had a lot of fanfare, I will say. But great to see Jade back, I will say. His last fight was on my promotion at the start of 2002. So what's that, 2.5 years ago? It's hard to believe. Now, he's fighting Mark Lucas, a former international representative, 10-3. That should be a ripper of a fight. I think it's at light heavyweight. I'm glad it's not at super middleweight. I'm glad that Jade's not having to boil himself down straight away. So that's good. Really looking forward to seeing that one. The other on there, David Light. Yep, good to see him on the card as well against Vikas Singer. He should win that one. Sam Goodman, love this kid. 12-0 against Jason Cooper for the WBO Oriental Super Bantamweight title. Sam 12-0, Jason Cooper 17-3-1, so that should be good. Darragh Foley, always entertaining, 20 wins, 4 wins and a draw against Blake Minto, 14-3-2, IBO International Super Lightweight title. That should be a ripper as well. Let's hope that Stevie Spark wins his fight and we can maybe see those two guys, Darragh Foley I'm speaking of, get the fight down the track. Paulo Acusio, great to see him on the card as well against Faris Chevalier. He's got his work cut out though. Faris 13-2, that's a big step up. I don't think they would have taken the fight if they thought he was a chance to maybe lose to Chevalier, but Chevalier did beat Blake Caparello. I've got a feeling Paulo Acusio at this stage of his career, even though he's only had 2 fights, will be a bit more of a handful than Blake was. Good to see Blake back, by the way, but I think Paulo Acusio will win that one on points. Faris Chevalier, they don't call him the Fox for nothing. I don't see him getting hunted down by Paulo Acusio. Sam Eggington in the main event, I suppose you call it, against Dennis Hogan for the IBO title, Super Welterweight. Sam Eggington 32-7 against Dennis Hogan, 30 wins, 4 losses and a draw. And then what I'm calling the main event is Nikita Tszyu against Dark and Dryden. Now this is an interesting one, really interesting. Now we all thought that when Nikita Tszyu knocked out his first 2 opponents that Ben Horn was in all sorts of trouble. And Ben Horn, I won't say exposed Nikita, but he just gave us all the view that he's human and it's not all going to be just one knockout after another. And I think that fight for Nikita, great result. That he was tested so early. He did get rocked. He was fatigued. Ben really pushed him to his limit. Perfect fight for Nikita. I don't think his team would want fights like that all the time. But I think it was really good for his progress to get someone that gave him some really, really good rounds and a little bit of duress as well. So I think that fight will hold him in good stead. Now, I don't think he'll be as reckless in his future fights. He knows he just can't go and wipe these guys out. These are professionals. A lot of them are pretty cagey. Ben's a journeyman, I suppose, if you want to define him as something, but gave Nikita all he could handle. Now, strange enough, I think Dark and Dryden's probably a better fighter than Ben Horn, but I don't think he gives Nikita as good a fight. He's going to come out bombing, and I'm not a fan of sometimes the way Nikita can maybe put his chin up in the air, and if he does that, he's liable to maybe have his chin tested. But I just think overall skills, I think he's got Dark and Dryden covered. I'm not so sure Dark and Dryden's got the ability to go with him for 6 rounds. So my money would be on Nikita Tszyu. And props for Nikita Tszyu taking a fight with Dark and Dryden, and also for Dark and Dryden taking the fight with Nikita. So I'm really looking forward to that fight. Should be a ripper. All right. Hang on. Let's Ben Horn. Mucked up your multi there, mate, but good on him. What a legend. Yeah, look, like everyone, I was just in awe of him that night. The replay was on yesterday, I think it was, and I watched it, and look, just full respect to Ben Horn. Fantastic. And I think he should get some other fights out there, Ben. I'm not sure he'll keep continuing on, but yeah, he's got some other big fights out there for him down the track. So, but yeah, I'm sorry he mucked up your multi there, mate. But anyway, now what do we got there? Just I've missed Lima 39-6-1, 396-1 as an amateur, 2 Olympic gold medals. I guess they got one right. They got just fought for a world title in his second fight. Got beat, probably a lesson learned. And then since then, he got his shot and obviously won it, and he's been one of the greats ever since. And how's that? 396-1. What a great fighter. Foley versus Minto should be a bloody entertaining fight for fans. 100%. Foley, yeah, look, what do you say about Darragh Foley? He can fight. Probably gets hit a bit too much for my liking, but that's what the crowd like. I would love to see him against Stevie Spark, but Minto, that'll be a really good fight. Blake Minto, he comes to fight as well. So I just think the whole card, you just got to take your hat off to No Limit. To think of something, to take something from other sports and put it into the Super Saturday format and have an all-day event with bands and a beer garden and food trucks, all that sort of stuff. I think it's awesome. And who knows what they might do going forward. So we sort of seen it last year. They had a little bit of the Festival of Boxing as well. They had there was 2 or 3 fight nights in a row. So yeah, so that was awesome. All right, some comments on Dark and Dryden. Think Darken is going to shock a lot of people this week. Yep. Expect Nikita to come out strong and show Darkin everything he has for first 2 rounds. But Darkin will still be standing there after that. Yeah, well, let's hope so. He looks pretty tough, Darkin Dryden. He hasn't, look, in my opinion, he hasn't really been tested. And the Jason Marwas, whatever he was, it's not Nikita Zoo. But having said that, he might just find another leg with having a quality fighter in front of him. I think it's going to be bombs away. And let's just see what happens. As I said, I would really like to see Nikita maybe tighten up the defence a little bit. But maybe the Ben Horn fight showed him that he just can't go out there and just wail away and expect to get the job done. And as shows 4-0 with Darkin Dryden, he can punch. He's in good hands with his trainer. I'm assuming he's still with Lincoln Hudson. If that's the case, he'll be in good nick and he'll come to fight. So, well, that's an interesting one. Darkin round 5 finish. You think he gets Nikita Zoo out of there? Whoa, there you go. So there's that's a bold statement there. But look, you know, I'm not disagreeing with you. Yeah, it'll be a very, very interesting one. The Horn brothers can take a shot, no doubt about that. Yeah, they're tough boys. Sometimes too tough for their own good, I got to say. But all respect for them and for both guys. It's been a little bit of a shame the way Jeff went out against Tim. Probably pretty obvious that the fire in the belly had left him by then. But he got a good payday either way, so that's good. But Ben, again, what else can you say? Well, guys, I think that's going to do it for this episode. Oh, I'm a little bit out of focus there. Let's see if I can come back there. Yep, I think I'm back. I hope I've covered there. Probably didn't get a chance to go right over the Super Saturday, guys. We might do a little bit more in detail in this week's deep dive show. When I've got Tassie and maybe Nick Noonan on the show, we might have a bit more of a chat and go a little bit more in depth. The week after, we will do a full preview of Cambosis and Haney, so make sure you check that out. I think we'll do a standalone show for that one, and I'll try and get a few different people involved and see what they think of that. We'll go from there. But yeah, as we discussed earlier, guys, next Monday, take it to the bank. We will try and put the link in the comment section. Come on there. You can go into a waiting room, and then I can bring you on to the show, and let's give it a go. And talk boxing for real. So thanks again. Really appreciate everyone that's commenting, watching, whether it be live that we are doing now or after the fact or listening on Spotify. It's very much appreciated. I'm really trying to build the show. And more so, rather than bringing guests on, I'd rather save that for other shows and bring you guys on to chat. This is what this show's all about, is having you guys on to talk boxing with me and each other. So if we can do that, then that is the aim. So pencil in next Monday from 7:30. We'll bring you guys on and see how we go. Fingers crossed. So thanks again, guys, and we'll see you then.